Well, folks, it hasn't taken long for Deadlock tournaments to start appearing, and there are definitely a few individuals that have stood up and made a name for themselves at this early stage of things. Welcome back to the channel. You're locked in today with myself, Uber, and I'm here with Buds, a top NA player already emerging as a player to look out for, and also someone with a ton of FPS history at the top level, going back years. So, first of all, Buds, thanks for coming on the show, man. I'd love it if you... Yeah, no, man, absolute pleasure. Dude, tell us a bit about your background here before we jump into this Infernus gameplay.
So most people probably know me just from Overwatch. Played like a lot of the pro scene in Overwatch, kind of before Overwatch League was a thing. So mostly just like pre-Overwatch League, and then a little bit of like contenders afterwards. But it's probably where most people know me from.
Yeah, I mean, to add to that, like you obviously played on the Fnatic roster, sort of pre-Overwatch League, which is one of the most known NA teams, and then obviously you spent a fair bit of time on that XL2 roster, in contenders as well. But you're on the Deadlock now, so first of all, you are on the winning team of Downtown Showdown #1, which is kind of like, the biggest Deadlock tournament so far, at least in terms of prize pool. And you've linked up with a couple old boys from previous years of FPS. Tell us a bit about how that went for you guys.
Well, I wouldn't say that first tournament, the Downtown Showdown, was like that serious of a tournament. It was kind of just like, just thrown together pretty quick, and even the teams were kind of just like thrown together. So nothing like too serious.
Sure.
But yeah, we won it pretty easily. But yeah, I think that's just a product of like the level of the strength in the teams.
Yeah, I mean, you guys very early, and obviously you've already clocked at this point almost 1,400 hours of Deadlock, which is kind of wild, so no surprise to see you guys leading the charge. Let's talk a little bit about this game. You've got quite an illustrious lane opponent, but you're here on Infernus. Tell us a little bit about, what your kind of role is in the broad scheme of the game, and, you're in a solo lane here, so I'm curious if that differs at all from playing a duo lane if you get into them.
Yeah, being in the solo lane kind of just differs a little bit. It's a little bit slower, but it also can be like more aggressive at times. Like right here, it's kind of unfortunate for my opponent here, Sinatra, because he's playing Vindicta. Mm-hmm. It's like not like the best like solo laner, you could say. And Infernus is just like a godly solo laner. Like, so it's kind of unfortunate for him, but sometimes you get put in these positions, you gotta play from behind. It's like a MOBA, Got to be able to be flexible, play all the.
Yeah, you gotta play the outs, I guess. You know what I mean? I think this is where you sort of all in. Yeah, this burn damage is kind of crazy. So that's obviously the first kill in lane. You picked up an ammo scavenger first, and then gone for the extra regen in lane. Tell us a little bit about like what you're trying to build towards and what you're emphasizing in terms of Infernus's kit here.
Sure. So. Ammo scav right now in this patch is like nearing an end, but these like 2-week cycles, like ammo scav are just so broken this patch because it has 12 stacks and you get 2 spirit per stack, so you get upwards of 24 spirit pretty early in the game for just 500 souls. So any like spirit poke character like Infernus or Wraith can like just benefit from having like all this extra spirit. And then you're hovering over Infuser at the moment too. That's also just plus 16 spirit, so any like spirit poke or like the burn damage in this case just like is crazy amounts of damage with this much spirit you can get early game for so cheap.
So, and also like, per soul, like the stat points per soul you get for these early game items makes them really quite powerful. So there's a ton of incentive to buy, as soon as you can and pick up some of these key items. You've also, picked up the extra regen in lane, which probably speaks for itself at this point. It's just very good when you're trying to be poked down. And you've also picked up melee lifesteal here. I have noticed you trying to close as often as you can the gap on this Invicta.
So melee lifesteal, believe it or not, is actually a really great regen item as well because it procs off the creeps. So like every 7.5 seconds you can just melee a creep and it's like 40 health or so. And it's also good on Infernus because later on when I'm reaching 3k here and I unlock my ultimate, when you stun them with your ultimate you get a free heavy punch off, and so that's why the melee lifesteal is a little bit synergistic with this character as well.
It makes sense, obviously, when it sort of comes to those fights, you can get a little bit of extra healing value, but just in lane, it feels like it makes your sustain pretty wild. Also, the sprint boots. Look, we see through this replay as well, like you showing off quite a lot of sort of movement tricks here. I know a lot of players getting into Deadlock are like, you know, trying to get their head around some of this movement tech. You're sort of being pressured here now by Abrams. I Remix, another name from the past.
Help their duo right now, so he's trying to help them out.
Yeah, well, didn't work out this time around. But tell us a little bit about, like, for new players, right, who are looking at the movement of some of these top players. Like, where do you kind of start, and what are you emphasizing, you know, in terms of making sure you have good movement? Do you sort of practice it in a certain way, or is there anything you're trying to aim for throughout the game?
So what I'd recommend is, like, a new player to, like, start, like, upping their movement is, like, get the slide down first. Like, that's where I started for sure. Like, I think when the new player, like, starts playing the game, they just, like, they roll, right? And they don't slide, and it's kind of like, sliding is, like, so good in this game. Like, basically, like, after every single roll, you want to slide, and that's where I'd start. Like, I can immediately tell if a player's new when they don't slide.
Okay. Well, I think your opponent is dead here. Oh, my goodness. All right, so you get that ultimate off. Now you're starting to sort of, you know, exacerbate this lead in lane pretty excessively. Where do you think this obviously comes from? Like, obviously you've gotten a couple kills in lane here, but you are like double your opponent's souls at this point. How are you trying to, I guess, how are you trying to snowball this lead here? And does laning in general in Deadlock, like, does it differ greatly from other MOBAs, or are a lot of those ideas kind of the same?
I think it sort of differs. But the way I'm trying to snowball here is I'm just trying to get this Guardian down so I could go influence other lanes and kind of get out of this one and, like, kind of snowball my advantage into the other lanes. So...
What is this ticking damage? that is so filthy.
Yeah, that's sort of the one thing about Infernus that's, like, really strong is puts a 4-second burn on them, and then if say the 4-second burn is about to expire, if you shoot them one time, it reapplies the burn for the full 4 seconds. So when you get burned by Infernus, you really need to just, like, hide and like let it fall off.
Is that also why you have a duration extender here? Is that affecting your burn duration as well, or is that?
Yeah, it is. That's just also just a strong item on Infernus in general, and it's also a pretty good laning item as well because it has a health regen on it.
So you've actually come into another lane here, looking to try and sort of be involved. I think a lot of people end up converging here. Do you feel that, you know, the lane phase ends once that first Guardian is down? Should you be trying to, you know, get that Guardian down as soon as possible and then head elsewhere? Or will it differ based on, like, your kind of role?
No, I think you want to get the Guardians down as fast as possible. When you destroy all 4 Guardians, it unlocks the flex slot for the first flex slot for the team. So I think that would probably be, like, the main objective early in the game is to just get all the Guardians down.
You here, I think you're trying to fight.
I'm dead here.
Yeah, you're trying to fight. I guess you don't expect that sort of Invicta to come back in.
Yeah, what happened there is I thought they lane swapped, and so I thought he, like, kind of, like, complained to Remix that he was kind of done with the lane and he wanted to lane swap. So I thought it'd be, like, 1v1ing Remix at that point, but they helped each other.
Yeah,
got me.
You, in the meantime, kind of on an island here, but a long way ahead. And I can see you're looking to sort of push that advantage a fair bit. But you are, like, heavily investing again.
Tech there.
Yeah, okay. Oh, he's dead. Yeah. Okay. Right. Now, again, you've come back to lane with a vengeance here. Again, you're continuing to buy items here that really sort of buff your spirit power. Now, like this Mystic Vulnerability, I think you just picked up, obviously, that Fleet Foot, but you're really not concerned about, you know, gun damage in this build by the looks of, at least at this stage, right? What are your biggest, like, power spike items that you are trying to get, at least in this phase of the game?
So I think, like, my first spike is like really early in the game when you have the maxed out ammo scav and infuser. Like, that's a power spike that, like, can be achievable, like, really early in the game. And then the second one would probably be, like, filling your purple slots.
Okay.
You know, like, getting the duration and the mystic vulnerability. And then one of the more notable ones is kind of later in the game is when you're going to get toxic bullets. Just a really strong 3k item for Infernus. I don't have it yet, but later in the game, like, I really feel that power spike when I get there.
You picked up Soul Shredders here just now. You're 3k souls ahead.
Just you know, just amplifying the burn. Just like all the items are just amplifying the burn.
Yeah, everything seems to be, like, very much catered in that direction. So now it also seems like it's really hard for your opponents to read you, because you sort of pull up on them and proc a couple of those abilities, and all of a sudden their health is just missing.
Yeah, it's gonna get even worse too when you see later in the game when started using like the stealth items and stuff.
So where is Infernus strongest? I mean, or do we kind of look at hero progression throughout a game in terms of like, you know, being strong in certain phases, or if you get ahead, do you feel like you're entirely relevant for the whole game and don't sort of really fall off?
Yeah, I think this character is just strong from the start.
Okay.
He's one of the ones where like you really need to like not let him get out of control, otherwise he's also like a really heavy lifesteal character.
Yep.
Yeah, it just does a ton of damage, has tons of lifestealing. Definitely just like don't want to get him ahead.
And you have also like, you know, spec'd into Spirit Lifesteal as well. So you've sort of picked up. Do you mean sort of lifesteal in terms of that it's inherent, or he just functions really well because you have all this ticking damage that you can sort of spread over multiple targets and heal off that?
He doesn't have inherent lifesteal. Like his one has a little bit of lifesteal on the second talent. But he builds a lot of lifesteal, and I'm gonna get Soul Shredder here. I'm gonna get Spirit Lifesteal because that Soul Shredder bullets item has a lifesteal as well.
Yep.
20%, which is like no joke. That's a lot of lifesteal. So he just builds a lot of lifesteal, and it works really well with this kit. Infuser also, when you pop Infuser, is a lot of lifesteal.
You have, yeah, so we saw that Infuser picked up earlier on. So Spirit Power and Spirit Lifesteal. So basically just like flat stat buff when you are really trying to throw down. And now you have actually picked up those toxic bullets here. You feel like that is a big spike for you?
Yeah, I'm just gonna like meld him here, as you can see.
Also, the healing reduction seems really bad for Abrams to have to deal with, because obviously he does heal over time based like you sort of on the damage he's taken, but he basically just died out of sight.
Yeah, I think what happened there is so when you shoot them and apply your burn, just your passive burn, and then you flame dash and run on them, it reapplies the duration of the burn you get by shooting them. So
okay.
I think he ran a little bit on the flame dash there, and took like a lot of damage.
I see. Yeah, so you are actually not using. I mean, that does have like a pretty strong damaging component to it. You actually running up on people and then use it to space out from them, and again after they've taken a tick of it. You also you max your afterburn here, so you are like, again, you feel like maxing your 3 here is the best way to go in terms of just getting that nasty burn.
Yeah, there's like 2 things you can kind of do with this character. I think the maxing your afterburn is definitely the best one, but I've seen people max the dash too, but I don't really like that because you're using your escape tool as damage, pretty much.
Yep. So you are disgustingly ahead right now. You are double the souls of like your lane opponent in general. Like you could be credited with the soul lead you have at this point in the game. If you had to distill like you getting ahead down to like a couple things, obviously like, you know, winning against your lane opponent is pretty good, but you're doing a ton of things. You're very active here. Now you're even taking this massive camp, which a lot of players might shy away from until they're a little bit stronger. Why would you say that you have been able to generate such a massive soul lead in a nutshell?
I think there's like good macro. Like I have a pretty good understanding of like when I need to catch the wave and when I can farm these camps like this, and see, like as you can see, like I'm gonna go like efficiently farm, and then I'm gonna go catch the wave before it's the tower here. Just like just kind of like the experience and knowing like when I can farm and when I have to be in the lane.
Did you?
On top of obviously winning the 1v1. So.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen that in Victor in a long time. I think they've put as much distance between them and yourself as possible. You talk about your sort of macro approach to the game. Obviously, a lot of players that maybe are newer to MOBAs in general have to develop this understanding. When you're moving around the map, let's say like let's say you can't be standing in lane right now. What is your priority? Like, what are you looking to do? Because you're always doing something. You're always farming souls or breaking crates or something like that.
You definitely want to just like not let too much of the farm just evaporate into the tower, right? Like you don't want to miss the waves, and then just trying to be as efficient as possible when you are like on your side of the map, like maybe taking a corner camp or something, and then it's all about efficiency and not letting the gold just like evaporate on the map.
And the creeps in your lane are like by and large yours, like you sort of are entitled to those. Do you see like, is there a situation where like a teammate is acceptable for them to come into your lane and take your neutral creeps, or are you sort of hoping they give you space?
I'd say the jungle's kind of like in these pubs, like free range for anybody to come and take, but Your lane creeps are definitely yours in the laning phase. Like you wouldn't want the lane next to you to come over and like split your farm. Like that's a kind of a no-no.
Okay. But even here, like you're transitioning, like as you are crossing the map, like you're transitioning through.
This is fine because it's like the laning phase is over. Like it's kind of like anyone's lane at this point now. And in the laning phase, like for your like some side laner to come and take your creeps, like that's weird.
Okay, so be on notice, folks, if you're starting to pick up the game. Also, Ern's been picked up here. What are the signals for when it's like an appropriate time to do that? Is it really based on sort of your lanes being pushed up, or is there anything you look for to sort of say, okay, let's get this Ern now, because it seems to be pretty valuable at all points of the game?
Yeah, so there's some controversy over like when it's appropriate to do the Ern. Like a lot of people think it's not worth it and you shouldn't do it. A lot of people think you should do it all the time.
Okay.
I think it's best to do the Ern when you can safely do it without losing like a lot of pressure on the map. Like if you're gonna do the Ern and the team is gonna take 2 walkers or something, or a walker, so that you can do the Ern, I think it's really not worth it.
Okay.
You need to make sure that when you're doing the Ern, you're not losing like objectives on the map.
So you want to make sure your waves are pushing away from you before you...
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
How do you sort of feel about, like, vision in this game? Because obviously, there's no wards in Deadlock right now. Do you feel like that's necessary? Obviously, there's no real fog of war. Like, you can just look across the map. Do you feel like it's fine as is?
That's some people's complaint, is that there's no... the only vision you get is pushing the waves.
Yep.
I'm not sure how I feel about it, but yeah, it is some people's complaints that there's no vision. Like some people think they should add like a vision watchtower or something that you cap and it gives you vision. But yeah, I'm not certain of what they should do really.
Okay. You've picked up your first 6k item here. Your Shadow Weave has been picked up. This is the first sort of tier 4 that you have gone for. Tell us a bit about this and how this like feels into your game plan, because right now you are in Viz with that active.
Sure. So this is just like a really strong item when you're ahead, because you're able to abuse like the stealth. You just like run through their jungle and find like the one person that thinks they're fine just farming, right? And it's got really good stats for Infernus too, just fire rate, and that was a friendly teabag.
I'm glad that feature is in this game too. Yeah.
But yeah, like I was saying, it just has a lot of spirit, has stealth, and fire rate. It's all just good stuff, especially when you're ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like what can be overlooked here is that this is technically like a sustain item, but you have like extra spirit power popping out of that stealth, right? So while it does have defensive stats on it in terms of like spirit shield health and regen, you get a massive spike sort of coming out. So definitely a good reason for players to be reading those very closely.
And I also say that as well, that it's sort of like a mini fortitude. It has so much health regen that like you're kind of just healing up out of combat as well. Just
yeah, that's really
health regen is a lot.
I mean, and these camps now are so trivial for you because you have so much of that passive life gain. We saw you like, happily sort of move through those. We're like 18 minutes into the game. Your leaders shrunk a little bit in terms of you versus Invicta, but they've been able to go elsewhere and do stuff. But overall, you're still really far ahead. You have hit that power spike recently. But are you concerned about anything in this game? Is there anything that you feel like you need to look out for or could potentially shut you down as the game goes later?
Paradox is always kind of scary. You can never really count her out of just like swapping you into their whole team and silencing you with the wall and stuff. But that's sort of like the only major threat. I guess like decay would really be scary as well, because I'm so lifesteal dependent that if they decay me, that's always annoying. But maybe like tether by Vindicta as well.
Yep. Yeah.
But the thing about the Shadow Weave is that you're able to like pick your engagements, like so like kind of able to like avoid a lot of that scary stuff just by being stealth and picking the right moments.
But I can see here you're not willing to fully commit there to that sort of fight. You're obviously at a pretty big numbers disadvantage, but you are able to spend some time on the fringes, almost like Shiv-esque gameplay, right? You build up your rage bar, but you are sort of spending your time on the fringes before looking for a chance to go in.
I see Abrams.
Yeah.
Okay, this is Abrams, extremely tanky, getting absolutely burnt to a crisp by you here. You can just see that ticking damage. You've reapplied that debuff as well.
Yep. So as you can see, it's like the same combo, right? I wanna light him on fire with my left clicks, and then I wanna run through him. And he almost was able to climb up on the building to avoid the dash there, but he didn't quite get it in time.
And I think you've just dodged that that owl. I feel like this build, or at least Infernus, is the kind of hero for the players that like to walk away from explosions without looking at them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like your opponents just die in a corner.
I think about that all the time too when I dash through somebody and then I get to like Naruto run away from them while they burn to death.
So nasty. Yeah, you've just taken obviously one of these neutral buffs around the map, survival. How important are these? Do you feel like there's like maybe certain heroes that want to prioritize certain buffs? Are you just sort of, oh, if I'm passing through, I'll take this? Or is there ever a time when you are like really fighting for those?
Definitely in these higher ranked matches, people understand like the importance of them. Like, you definitely want to grab them as soon as they spawn. They're actually like very significant. I feel like in the lower ranked games, like they don't even care about them. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, as far as like saving them for your teammate, like you would only do that if somebody that really benefited from it was like very close by. It's like you just kind of want to get it off the map and make sure that the enemy team doesn't have it.
Yeah. You sort of, you know, you mentioned a lot about like there are some conditions if like in pubs maybe games are very different to sort of team games, and you've obviously had the chance to compete like in tournaments so far. What are the key differences like between playing in pubs and then playing in a team? Because obviously it requires a different approach.
The scrims or whatever you want to call them are like way more aggressive at times. Like also it's sort of like these like 5-man fights. Like it can be like 5 people on one side of the map while one person is farming, kind of like really like more numbers fights, like higher skilled fights. And also on the other side of that, like it can also be like slower at times. Like a team can be like behind and they're just trying to like not fight at all and just farm. So just like more coordination between like the teams. Like in these pub games, like sometimes like they can just like snowball out of control because like people are on like different pages. But in the scrim environment or whatever, everyone's on the same page most of the time, whether it's like whether they want to fight or they want to farm.
Yep. See, you're looking for a fight here at the moment. You, one thing I noticed in some games, especially in some of the lower tier games that I find myself involved in, there's a difficulty with sort of teams snowballing that mid-game advantage into ending. When you get ahead like this, what are you trying to do personally, or at least get the team to do in order to avoid like a really messy late game situation where, you know, things can get out of hand and so maybe snowball away from you even after you have a good lead?
Yeah, so the way you like kind of end in this game is like trying to find like picks and then going for mid boss. Like that's definitely the most like clear cut way to like get a push going to end. But until then, it's like the death timers are kind of short. So if it was like super early in the game, you kind of would want to just like get picks and go for walkers.
Yep.
Trying to get all 4 walkers down to get your flex slots.
Yeah, which you're starting to fill now. Like, I think you've been itemizing recently into your Boundless Spirit here. So you, at this point of the game, you just want to get like massive, you know, spirit power bonuses here. And I assume that's just to make that burn down even nastier. Really feels like this is how you scale heavily as everyone sort of picks up their own items and maybe even more defensive ones.
Yeah, I'm just trying to like come out of stealth and inflict the best burn possible and apply it on them for as long as possible.
Oh, that decay just got you there. That's something you said you were looking out for.
Yeah, also Shiv, he builds Healbane a lot, and so he's sort of like a similar character to Infernus, where he like applies like a big dot debuff.
Yep.
And one of the items he's going to build like almost every game is Decay and Healbane, so that could be very strong against Infernus, like 2 like massive like heal cut items.
How do you sort of feel about the meta? Because obviously you mentioned that these patch cycles tend to change the game a lot. And we're recording this as of the day before a new patch, right? This is Wednesday the 25th. How do you... Yeah, what was the meta looking like right now? We've seen builds change quite drastically. You want a build right now that was more recent, or has this been facilitated with new item additions? And in general, what are you trying to do in scrims? And what are you prioritizing in terms of heroes and builds?
So one thing that I think is like really broken that's played at like any chance they can get is 7 with Echo Shard. think that's one of like the main annoyances of this patch.
Yep.
70 like puts the auto targeted stun on you, and then he can put a second one on you with echo shard, so you're just stunned on the ground for like 5 seconds. People don't like playing against that, and then stuff like dynamo and stuff becomes better in the coordinated play, because teams are usually grouped up looking to team fight, and you can get easier like black holes and stuff off.
Also, like with refresher, and I think like also like Viscous and Kelvin with like the intensifying mag, like gun-based build seems pretty troll as well.
One more body for the pie.
Yeah, Kelvin is always like a insanely strong pick as well.
Now you kind of played Overwatch at the top level through like some of the most changing times of that game, right? I'm curious on your thoughts about, you know, Deadlock being a 6v6 game, and you know, you also played a 6v6 game in Overwatch that ended up transitioning, you know, eventually, you know, down the line into 5 versus 5. Are you happy with 6v6? Do you feel like that works for Deadlock, or do you think, you know, it's quite a lot?
I think it's all right in Deadlock because there's 4 lanes, like another MOBAs, right? There's like 3 lanes in the jungle. Like, I feel like the map is kind of big enough for 6. I'm not sure like how the game would play if it was 5, but I feel like it's okay for now.
And Crowd control, obviously something was very controversial in Overwatch, and they ended up toning it down a lot. In Deadlock, it's much like Dota, right? It can be extremely punishing, and towards the end of these games, you can get locked down for extremely long periods of time. How do you feel about that? Are you like happy that it's a part of the game? Do you think it should stay as is? Do you think it's worth being looked at down the line to reduce it? Because in 6v6, you tend to see like these individuals just get absolutely pounded with so much CC that late in the game, they struggle to do anything about it.
You sort of like have a lot of tools against it, but it can be like incredibly frustrating playing like the carry character, and then you have like 6 people on the other team like just trying to like hunt you down and lock you down with that CC.
Yep.
So I can see both sides of it. You know, you have like the BKB equivalent of Dota. You have Unstoppable. You have debuff for mover. You have sort of ways to get rid of like the overwhelming amount of CC, but I think it's always going to be like sort of a complaint from everybody because nobody likes not
loss of control
character.
Yeah. It's always like a very controversial thing.
Yeah.
You tend to play these games competitively, and you tend to always make your way towards the top level, and you tend to do it quite early on in many of them. So what do you think about Deadlock? Like, is this a game you're looking at as having true esports potential, and something you're hoping that like your investment of time here pays off, and that there is a pro scene that kind of makes sense for you to keep investing in?
Well, I love Deadlock because I like MOBAs. Like, yep. I always played a lot of like League of Legends, and it's kind of funny. Before I started playing Deadlock, I was actually dabbling in some Dota, just like casually.
Okay.
So I went from like one Valve game to the other, but yeah, I love MOBAs. I've never been too great at them, so in Deadlock I can kind of like leverage my FPS or my shooting skill into a MOBA, which is kind of nice. But as far as like hoping to go pro or something like that, like I'm not like trying to go pro really. Like I'm perfectly content. Like I'm just playing the game and streaming.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind going pro if it was worth it.
What is, obviously you've got a bunch of different like gaming skill sets. What do you think has been the most helpful skill set that you've brought from other games you played into Deadlock? Because aim matters, macro matters, general MOBA mechanics matter. What for you has been the biggest boost that, you know, only someone like you can really bring in?
I feel like Overwatch just like prepared me for everything. Like just like my general MOBA knowledge and stuff was enough to play this game. Like I feel like Overwatch, just like the team fighting and the aim style kind of like translates to this game. Yep. Like this game is kind of like Overwatch MOBA at the moment, like with the team fighting. You can get by on like general MOBA knowledge, I think. Like, but yeah, like a lot of like the best players in this game, like at the moment, like played Overwatch. I think Overwatch players are just like the most like
He's like to have the edge,
most like prepared, yeah. Yep. For like any game that comes out, any shooter.
It's interesting. People talk about it a lot, you know, like who has the biggest edge? Is it the CS players for the aim, or the Fortniters because of the movement and the third person aspect? While you're trolling a little bit here, just having a bit of fun with it.
Yeah.
You picked up Veil Walker here as well, so I mean, you've gone for a lot of these sort of sustain items towards the end of the game. You feel like you're hitting hard enough at this point?
Yeah. Veil Walker is kind of just like 3K item. Like, I think like I was just trying to buy something and get out to the fight. Really.
Yeah. What do you hope is the one thing that if Deadlock becomes an esport, what are you hoping that they do not do? What do you hope that they avoid? Have you thought about that much?
Not really. I just kind of go with the flow.
Nice. Well, that was a pretty clean game. You ended up with a 45k souls. You guys took mid boss without any real issue there. So that was very, very solid. Real quick, let's just review your build at the end of this game and talk about what you think were the items that really make the big difference for you here. Maybe in the order that you picked them up as well, if you can remember that all. You know, I'm sure you know this build, so.
So, yeah, like I said at the start of the game, one of the first power spikes is the ammo scav and infuser. I don't have the ammo scav anymore. But trying to fill my purple slots. Then the green items are your vitality items. So like the items you need like to stay alive. So you kind of like build those as you see fit. Like say like you're behind, you want to build like the green items more so you don't die. And then so that's like the purple and the green slots. And then the generally with most characters in this game, you want to like fill your slots. You don't want to have like one orange item because you're leaving a lot of stats on the table.
Okay.
And you don't fill your slots.
Sure.
So yeah, just filling your slots, and then kind of like my first flex slot, I like to buy like the big powerful items. So that would be like your first 6200.
Yep.
In this case, it's Shadow Weave, and then that next flex slot was improved spirit armor, because their team is kind of really spirit damage heavy. They have the AP Grey Talon and the AP Yamato and the Shiv knives are like their main damage. So it's like a lot of spirit damage. Also, if you hover over that Shiv there, you'll see that he has escalating exposure. And the way that item works is it can actually bring your spirit resistance into the negatives. So as you take spirit damage, as you see there, minus 15 spirit resist on spirit damage, and it applies spirit amp. So bringing your resistances into the negative in this game is like very powerful. It's like a lot more damage. So I wanted to build spirit armor to not have him be able to take my spirit resistance into the negatives.
Yeah, okay, we could see the Shiv at some points was looking pretty dangerous in this game. Well, that's about all we have time for, Buds. Very quickly, any shout outs you want to make? Also, where can people find you? Because I know your boy Car Battery is on the grind out there on twitch.tv.
Yeah, I go by Car Battery in game, but you can find me on twitch.tv/buds, just BUDS.
All right, there you have it, folks. Make sure you check out Buds. We're going to see you competing in any tournaments coming up soon? Anything planned, or are you just enjoying the game right now?
There's another Downtown Showdown I'll be competing in. I want to say it's the 29th. I'm not sure. It's sort of just like I said, it's not a serious team. It's a for fun team. Just people kind of thrown together. And yep, 29th, I believe.
Let's go.
You'll see a lot of the top end players in that. So if you want to look at competitive Deadlock as is right now, I feel like that's a good place to look.
Absolutely. Good luck in that tournament as well. Hopefully you and the boys, the for fun team, have as much of a dominant performance as last time. That's all we got time for today. This has been Locked In with Buds. Buds, once more, man. Thanks for joining me.
Yep. Thank you for having me.